Have you ever promised yourself you would finally love yourself and then caught your mind attacking you the very next hour? Have you ever tried self-love advice and felt like you were failing at self-love too? Welcome back to the channel. Today we are walking into a theme that sounds soft but is actually one of the most serious spiritual trainings you can do. Loving yourself enough. Not in a selfish way. Not as an excuse. Not as a performance. But as a Buddhist-style practice of ending inner cruelty so you can live with wisdom, compassion, karma, awareness and steady effort. Because here is the uncomfortable truth. Many people do not struggle because they lack motivation. They struggle because they live with an inner voice that treats them like an enemy. And when your mind becomes your enemy, even success tastes bitter. Even praise feels unstable. Even love from others feels hard to receive. So let us anchor to truths before the story begins. First, self-love is not a mood. Self-love is how you respond to yourself when you do not get what you want. Second, self-love is not just affirmations. Self-love is the daily practice of stopping unnecessary harm in your own mind, speech, and behavior. That is karma in action. Karma as the results of what you repeat. Now let me tell you a story. There was a person named Rowan. Rowan was not lazy. Rowan was not careless. Rowan was actually the kind of person who tried hard. Rowan studied hard, tried to be a good friend, tried to improve, tried to be responsible. From the outside, Rowan looked fine. But inside, Rowan carried a private habit. The habit was harshness. If Rowan made a mistake, the mind did not correct it gently. The mind attacked. If Rowan felt awkward, the mind replayed it for hours. If Rowan saw someone else succeed, the mind compared. If Rowan looked in the mirror, the mind evaluated. If Rowan tried something new, the mind predicted failure before the first step. Rowan did not call it self-hate. Rowan called it being realistic. Rowan thought harshness was discipline. Rowan thought pressure was motivation. Rowan thought kindness would make Rowan weak. That is a common illusion. It is also a painful one. One evening, Rowan watched a video about self-love. It said, love yourself. Choose yourself. Stop seeking validation. Forgive yourself. Be kind to yourself. Rowan felt hopeful for about 10 minutes. Then, the mind said, you cannot even do self-love right. What is wrong with you? And that was the moment Rowan realized something terrifying. The mind could weaponize any message. Even a message of kindness. Even a message of healing. The mind would turn it into another test. Another way to fail. Rowan sat on the bed and stared at the wall. Then Rowan said out loud a sentence that sounded simple but was the beginning of awakening. I am tired of fighting myself. The next day, Rowan met an older cousin named Mira. Mira was not perfect, but Mira had a steadiness Rowan could feel. Not the steadiness of someone who never struggles. The steadiness of someone who does not abandon themselves while struggling. Rowan told Mira the truth. I want to love myself, but I do not know how. Every time I try, I hear that voice. Mira nodded. Then Mira asked a question that Rowan did not expect. When did you learn that love must be earned? Rowan tried to answer quickly. I do not know. Mira said. Then, we will not start with love. We will start with honesty. Because the first act of love is telling the truth without cruelty. Rowan felt something soften and also something resist. Because cruelty had become familiar. Familiar feels safe even when it hurts. Mira offered Rowan a practice that sounded almost as small. When the harsh voice appears, do not argue with it. Do not chase it. Do not obey it. Just name it. Rowan frowned. Name it how? Mira said. Say inwardly, harshness is here. Or judgment is here. Or pressure is here. Then take one breath. Then ask one question. What would I say to a friend I truly cared about in this exact situation? Rowan thought it sounded cheesy. But Rowan agreed to test it for 1 week. The first test happened fast. Rowan missed a small deadline. Nothing catastrophic. But the mind reacted like it was the end of the world. You are irresponsible. You always mess up. You are falling behind. Everyone will see you are not good enough. Rowan felt the usual stomach drop. The usual tight chest. The usual heat in the face. The usual urge to punish the self with more work and less rest. Then Rowan remembered the practice. Harshness is here. Rowan took one breath, then asked the question, what would I say to a friend? Rowan imagined a friend making the same mistake. Rowan would not scream at them. Rowan would say, it is okay. Fix what you can. Learn the lesson. Move forward. Rowan whispered that to themselves. It is okay. Fix what you can. Learn. Move forward. The mind did not become silent, but something changed. The inner attack lost a little power. Rowan corrected the mistake. And later that night Rowan realized something strange. The world did not end. The mistake did not define identity. The pain was real. The extra cruelty was optional. That is the first layer of Buddhist wisdom. Pain happens, but the second arrow is optional. The second arrow is the extra suffering you add through self-attack and story. Rowan kept practicing. And then the deeper pattern began to show itself. Rowan noticed the harsh voice appeared most strongly in 3 situations. When Rowan felt judged. When Rowan compared themselves to others. When Rowan felt uncertain about the future. In other words, the harsh voice was not random. It was a protector. A misguided protector. The harsh voice believed, if I pressure you enough, you will be safe. If I insult you enough, you will improve. If I control you enough, you will not be rejected. This is how the inner critic pretends to help. But the results tell the truth. The critic did not create peace. It created fear. Fear created avoidance. Avoidance created procrastination. Procrastination created shame. Shame created more criticism. This was karma, a cycle of cause and effect inside the mind. Rowan told Mira about this. Mira said, now we go deeper. Because you cannot heal what you do not understand. And you cannot understand what you keep labeling as evil. Rowan asked, so the critic is not evil? Mira said, no, it is hurt. It is learned. It is a strategy from the past. It is the voice of conditional love. Conditional love says, you are worthy when you perform. You are worthy when you are useful. You are worthy when you look good. You are worthy when you are easy. You are worthy when you do not need anything. Rowan felt that sentence land in the chest like a stone turning into water. Because Rowan had heard versions of it their whole life, not always spoken directly. Sometimes implied. Sometimes in praise that only arrived when Rowan excelled. Sometimes in silence when Rowan struggled. Sometimes in the way adults responded to mistakes with disappointment rather than guidance. Rowan learned early that being accepted required being impressive. So self-love felt unnatural. Because self-love does not bargain. Self-love does not say, I will care for you only when you win. Mira said, if you want to love yourself enough, you must practice unconditional friendliness toward your experience. Not unconditional approval of behavior. Unconditional friendliness toward your humanity. Rowan asked what that meant in real life. Mira explained it like this. When you feel sadness, you do not shame sadness. When you feel fear, you do not insult fear. When you feel anger, you do not become anger. When you make a mistake, you do not turn the mistake into a life sentence. You respond with mindfulness and wisdom. Mindfulness says, this is what is happening. Wisdom. This is the skillful next step. Compassion says, I will not abandon you while you take that step. Rowan felt skeptical again. Because it sounded good, but Rowan wanted proof. So Mira gave Rowan a second practice. A compassionate boundary practice. Because self-love without boundaries becomes people-pleasing. And people-pleasing is another form of self-abandonment. Mira said, every day for 1 week choose one small honest no. Not a dramatic rebellion. A simple no that protects your energy. No to staying up too late. No to arguing online. No to doing extra work when your body is exhausted. No to saying yes just to avoid discomfort. No to being available when you need rest. Rowan tried, and immediately felt guilt. Guilt said, you are selfish. You are lazy. You are disappointing people. Mira warned Rowan this would happen. She said, "Guilt is not always a moral compass. Sometimes guilt is a withdrawal symptom from people-pleasing." Rowan practiced anyway. And something surprising happened. The world did not collapse. Some people adjusted. Some people respected Rowan more. And Rowan started feeling a new kind of strength. The strength of not betraying the self. This is where self-love becomes real. Self-love is not saying nice words while still abandoning yourself. Self-love is choosing actions that reduce harm. Now the story reaches the moment that changed Rowan most. One day Rowan received criticism from someone important. It was not cruel criticism, but it touched an old wound. The wound of not being enough. Rowan felt the familiar heat. The familiar urge to defend. The familiar urge to collapse. The familiar inner voice rising fast. "See, you are failing. You will never get it right." Rowan paused. Harshness is here. Rowan took one breath, then asked, "What is the wise response?" Wise response did not mean pretending the criticism did not hurt. Wise response also did not mean attacking back. Wise response meant clarity. Rowan said, "I hear you. Here is what I will adjust. And here is what I want to clarify." Afterward, Rowan felt shaky but also proud in a quiet way. Not proud of being perfect. Proud of staying present. And then Rowan realized something that many people miss. Self-love is not built in comfort. Self-love is built in moments of challenge when you choose not to attack yourself. That is practice. Practice is the daily return. Return to breath. Return to truth. Return to kindness. Return to right effort. Rowan kept training. But self-love has another layer that is even harder. Receiving love. Because many people can offer love outward, but cannot receive it inward. They distrust kindness. They expect rejection. They assume praise is temporary. They wait for the hidden criticism behind the compliment. Rowan was like that too. When a friend said, "I appreciate you," Rowan smiled but did not absorb it. The mind said, "They are just being polite. They do not really know you. If they saw your flaws, they would change their mind." Mira said, "This is also karma. If you repeatedly reject love, you train the nervous system to stay guarded. Guarded becomes lonely even in a room full of people." So Mira gave Rowan a third practice. When someone offers genuine kindness, do not deflect. Do not joke it away. Do not argue. Simply say thank you. Then breathe and let the words land for 5 seconds. Rowan tried it. It felt uncomfortable, almost like vulnerability. But after a few weeks, Rowan noticed something. The heart became less armored, less suspicious, more available. This is compassion again. Compassion is not only giving. It is also allowing yourself to be human enough to receive. Now let us connect all of this to the Buddhist core. In Buddhism, one root of suffering is clinging. Clinging to being perfect. Clinging to being admired. Clinging to controlling outcomes. Clinging to an image of who you must be. Another root is aversion. Aversion to discomfort. Aversion to being seen. Aversion to mistakes. Aversion to ordinary weakness. The inner critic is made from clinging and aversion. It clings to perfection and avoids shame. It believes cruelty will protect you from pain. But cruelty only multiplies pain. So the path is not to destroy the critic with more violence. The path is to bring the critic into awareness and change your relationship with it. Mindfulness recognizes. A harsh thought is here. Wisdom asks, is this thought true? Is it helpful? What is it trying to protect? What is the skillful response? Compassion says, I will protect you without harming you. This is how the compassionate brain is trained. Not with one speech, with repetition. And repetition is karma. Karma is not a threat. Karma is the shape of your habits. If you rehearse self-attack daily, your nervous system learns self-attack is home. If you rehearse kindness daily, your nervous system learns kindness is available. Destiny shifts because the default shifts. Now I want to share one more storyline inside this story because it shows the deepest form of self-love. Forgiveness of yourself. Rowan had one memory that carried shame. A moment years ago when Rowan hurt someone with words. Not intentionally cruel, but careless, and the guilt remained. The inner critic used that memory like a weapon. See, you are a bad person. You do not deserve kindness. Rowan brought this to Mira. Mira said, self-love does not erase accountability. Self-love includes accountability without endless self-punishment. Rowan asked how. Mira said, first, tell the truth about what happened. Second, learn the lesson. Third, repair if possible. Fourth, release the fantasy that punishing yourself forever makes you good. Rowan sat with that. Then Rowan wrote a sincere message to the person harmed. No excuses, just acknowledgement. The person responded kindly. Not perfectly, but enough. Rowan cried after reading it. Not because everything was solved, because the heart felt less stuck. This is important. Many people think self-love is selfish, but real self-love makes you more responsible, not less. Because when you stop drowning in shame, you can face truth and repair. Shame hides, compassion faces. Now we come to the heart of this entire episode. Why is loving yourself so hard? Because many of us learn it early that love was conditional. Because many of us confuse harshness with strength. Because many of us try to earn worth through performance. Because many of us treat our body and mind like tools rather than living beings. So what does loving yourself enough actually look like? It looks like you stop using yourself as a punching bag. It looks like you tell the truth without cruelty. It looks like you rest without calling it failure. It looks like you set boundaries without needing everyone to approve. It looks like you make mistakes in return. It looks like you apologize when needed and still remain human. It looks like you keep practicing even when the mind says you are not worthy of practice. And here is the most practical thing I can give you right now. When the harsh voice appears tonight, do not panic. Do not obey. Do not argue for an hour. Just do this. Name it. Harshness is here. Breathe once. Ask, what would I say to a friend I care about? Then say that to yourself. That is not weak. That is brave. Because it interrupts a lifetime habit. Do that again tomorrow. And again the next day. That is practice. Practice changes karma. Karma changes destiny. Now let me close with the ending that matters. Rowan did not become perfect. Rowan did not become endlessly confident. Rowan still had hard days, still had fear, still had insecurity. But Rowan stopped abandoning themselves, and that changed everything. When you stop abandoning yourself, you become steadier. When you become steadier, you make wiser choices. When you make wiser choices, you suffer less. When you suffer less, you become more compassionate toward others. This is the path. In the comments, tell me what self-love is hardest for you. Is it stopping the inner critic? Is it setting boundaries? Is it forgiving yourself? Is it receiving kindness? Is it resting without guilt? Share one small practice you will try this week. If you want more long-form stories like this, subscribe to the channel, like the video, and stay with us. Your mind can become a home, not through force, through practice. Thank you for being here with me. See you in the next video.